Hello my lovelies, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Becky and I post about fashion, lifestyle content, knitting. I don't know, we're having a bit of a content revamp lately, so we're figuring it out. But definitely knitting. My favorite thing in the world to talk about is knitting right now, and has been for the last I don't know how long. So I decided, why not finally start talking about knitting on here, and that's what I have been doing. And today I thought that I would talk about the Sonja sweater by Petite. I knitted this, when did I finish it? 6 weeks or so ago, and this was kind of my first garment. And what I mean by kind of, let me move the camera down. What I mean by kind of is I have been knitting for I think about 4 years now, but I was always really afraid of knitting garments and knitting with patterns. I don't know why, I don't know how I got this like in my head, but I was really afraid of knitting with patterns. So what I used to do was I would basically only knit blankets, small things like small like coasters or something like that, and jumpers for my dog, but I wouldn't follow patterns. I would just like make it up, and I don't know why I thought that was going to be easier than following a pattern, but that was what I did for a really long time. And then last year I decided that it was time to just see what the deal was with patterns and give it a go. I didn't really follow any knitting creators. I hadn't really watched any creators before, so I was very much in my own bubble. I'd watched a few videos on TikTok of how to start knitting, and that was literally it. Like, I didn't really consume any other knitting content after that. So I was very much in my own world, and I was very lost, really. So then last year I started knitting with patterns for the first time, kind of towards the end of the year. I knitted a little rat, I don't know where he is. I'll try and put a picture if I can find him, and of the pattern. I knitted a couple of stockings for Christmas. And then at the start of this year I knitted a cardigan for my niece who is due to come in June, so my baby niece. So this was my first thing I think I ever made for myself. And it was my first kind of big garment. So it's really like, I've been knitting a long time, but I'm still very much a beginner. So this is very much a review coming from a beginner point of view. But yeah, this is the jumper. Isn't she pretty? I am a very neutral black and white kind of girl, so I don't know what possessed me to make it in red, but I love that. I'll talk a little bit about what I used to make it and some of the other details before we go into like reviewing the actual thing. So I used this is what I have left over, the red. I don't think they have shade names in Sauterelle Green. I think they're just, you look at them and pick out the color. Let me double check. Oh, I didn't realize this is mohair and nylon. 80% mohair and 20% nylon. Didn't realize that. I thought it was pure mohair. Doesn't matter. Anyway. Yeah, so the color just says red. So, the red one. And then and I don't have any left at all. I literally had like this much left at the end, so I threw it out. I used the Drops Alaska, also just in red. Was there another code on it or something? Anyway, if I find one I'll put it on the screen. So I held this one with the wool. This is really pretty. I don't know how to show it very well. There we go. It's a really pretty one, and it gives it that really nice fluffy kind of look. It was a little tricky. It was my first time actually working with mohair. I'd bought a couple of mohairs before, and always like abandoned them because I couldn't really figure it out. I think the problem was that previously I tried to hold mohair by itself and figure out, I don't know, like I said, I wasn't really watching videos or following patterns. I just kind of tried to figure it out. So yeah, when I held it with the wool, it was much easier to work with. So it was kind of my first mohair pattern. You can see that it's got that like, I don't know if you can really see it. It does have a bit of a like fluffy halo to it. Very pretty. I really like, well, I found that I started the swatch in just the wool and I felt like it just looked really flat. The red, it was a really nice red, but you know sometimes when you have a big garment in a very solid bright color, sometimes they can just feel a bit like like they just, I don't know how to describe it. Like it has to be the right shade for that. Like I feel like smaller pieces don't, it's not such an issue. I don't really know how to describe it. I felt like it fell flat. And then when I added in the mohair, it definitely added like more variance to the color. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of like, not patchy, but like, I don't know how to describe it. That. So I really liked those two together. I really liked how they worked together. And then I made this in the 2XL size. So when I measured myself, I can't remember what the sizing like brackets were, but I fell right at the bottom of the XL bracket. But I really like my jumpers to be really oversized. I like them to be really baggy, so I decided to go up a size. And I think that was a really good choice for me. I really like the sizing. And then the only other kind of quite relevant detail that I think that I'll share, I guess, is I think I knit really tightly, and from what I've seen in other people's videos, I think petite knits more loosely typically. So I ended up, I think she recommended a 6mm needle and I went to 5. Am I getting that the right way around? Yeah, so she recommended a 5mm needle in general. I went to a 6. Okay, and then on like the cuffs here, she'd recommended going down to 4.5, and I felt like it looked too loose, so I went to a 4. But then on the bottom bit, I wanted that bit to be a bit looser rather than as tight, so I did a 5 for that. So I did kind of amend it a little bit, and I ended up finishing the body 1 centimeter shorter than she said, because I ran out of wool and I couldn't get it any longer. But yeah, otherwise I followed to pattern, and I used 15 balls of the wool and 4.5 of the mohair, which was a lot, and it ended up being a lot more expensive than I expected, but that's what I get for adding in the mohair, because if I hadn't added in the mohair it would have been a lot cheaper, because the drops wool is quite affordable, so you know, you win some, you lose some. Anyway, I'm gonna put it on now and we're gonna have a look. So this is the fit. So my sleeves ended up being quite long. I think that I don't mind that, because I like to kind of fold. I just lost one of my bracelets. It'll turn up when I take it. Oh, there it is. Okay, well, I'll have to fix that. What was I saying? Yes, the sleeves. So I quite like them to be long and fold them over. I'm not entirely sure whether that was a mistake on my part, that I mismeasured something, or whether they are just really long, but I like it, so it doesn't matter. I really liked the size that I went with. I feel like it's a really nice kind of level of oversized, and I do really like the collar on it. I think it's a really nice, just kind of basic standard jumper, and I think it looks really cool. I love wearing this with like blue jeans, my black Birkenstocks. It feels very like summery France, like evening kind of vibes. I don't know whether that's just me. I feel like it's a little shorter than I would have liked. Like I said, I did end up doing it a little bit shorter than she said, because I ran out of wool, but I also just realized there's literally dirty dishes next to the sink. Sorry about that. So obviously that's partly the issue, but I also just feel like even if it was that 1 centimeter longer, I don't think it would have been as long as I would have liked. It did get a bit longer when I blocked it. It was like here-ish before I blocked, I think. But if I was to redo it, I think I would add on a few centimeters, so it sat like there maybe. I don't know, maybe I could have been a bit more aggressive in the blocking and pull it down a bit, but then I feel like it pulls on the collar. So, I don't know. I have also considered at some point just buying a couple more balls of the wool, since I have a fair amount of the mohair left, and just kind of adding on a bit more, but I don't know, because I like to kind of tuck my jumper in and things like that, so I feel like then it matters less how long it is. So I just feel like it's probably not necessary. I'm gonna take this back off because it is a little too warm for this, but I'll take it back off and we'll talk about like how easy it was to do. So I think that for me, like I said, I've been knitting a while, but it was kind of one of my first very big projects. It was my biggest project. So when I read on Petite Knit's website, she does say like different levels of difficulty. Let me see if I can find it. And this one definitely I like didn't meet what she said she would recommend for this one. So where is it? So she said that this was a difficulty 4 out of 5, and her like definition of 4 out of 5 is an experienced or intermediate. You need to have experience in knitting and be able to keep an overview of a pattern. You need to be able to keep track of multiple elements at a time. You need to know the following techniques: so charted patterns, sewing in a zipper, double knit. Oh, may need to know, sorry. Sewing in a zipper, double knitting, and advanced texture patterns. I haven't done any of those things, and I don't feel like I meet that kind of criteria, but I didn't think that it was difficult to follow really, based on her definition. I probably would have been between a beginner or an experienced beginner, so between level 1 and 2. Like I said, this was a 4, and I didn't really feel like I struggled with it at all. It was my first time doing German short rows. I have done other types of short rows, but not German. I watched a video on YouTube, and that was I found that to be quite simple, so that wasn't an issue. In fact, it's now my preferred short rows technique, and it is probably the one I'll stick with moving forward because I liked it. Yeah, picking up and knitting along the edges. I'd only done that once before, and I didn't find it too tricky. I found that like she gave quite a detailed description of like how to figure out how many to do and things like that, so I thought that that was actually really doable as well. The thing that I struggled with the most was the bind off. I don't want to give too many details away because I don't want to like give away the pattern itself too much. Does she say what the bind off is? She doesn't say in the description, so yeah, I don't know if I should say that, but yeah, the bind off I found a little bit tricky, but again, I just watched some YouTube videos and I managed to figure that one out. But yeah, I'm very much of the opinion with knitting that if you're willing to put in the work and like watch videos and figure out as you go, I feel like you can probably follow any pattern like at any level. It'll just be trickier or whatever. Maybe that's because I haven't worked with a huge amount of patterns. Maybe I'll change my mind moving forward, but I feel like, and I don't think any of it's, I think as long as you have some experience knitting and you're able to spot your mistakes, then I feel like you can figure out any pattern. I think if you don't know how to spot your mistakes yet, then that's where there's an issue, because you might think something is normal and it's actually a mistake, and then you get too far and, you know. So yeah, I think that, to be honest, like I would never really personally pay any attention to the difficulty level of a pattern. I would just figure it out and maybe torment myself along the way. But yeah, I feel like the rating that she gives to me feels like much higher. I think that it was much easier than I expected based on the difficulty level that she gave it. I felt like the pattern was really easy to follow. It was just, like I said, there was a couple of techniques that she said kind of do this, and I hadn't done it before, so I looked those up. But other than that, like, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was a good project to be my first kind of big garment. It really grew my confidence. I felt like I really learned a lot of new techniques in it, and I had a lot of fun with that. And yeah, I would really recommend it. My only problem, and if some of you can tell me how to fix this, please do. The only problem that I have encountered is that when I've weaved in my ends, you can see an example here. First of all, they're kind of pulling on the other stitches, which when I've weaved in my ends in other projects, it's never been an issue. And also, like, the end that I've weaved in keeps kind of slipping out of place a bit, so it's poking through to the right side, like you can see there. So I don't know whether it's because this wool is kind of slippery and soft that it's kind of slipping out of place, but I've never had this before. Like whenever I've woven in ends before, they go in and they stay in nicely and they're invisible, and that's that. So you can see it here as well by the collar at the back. It's happened there as well. So I don't know whether there's something I need to be doing different or if I've done something wrong. It's quite unrelated to the pattern really. I think that's my skill issue. But yeah, if anybody knows how to fix that, please do let me know. I keep just kind of cutting off the ends as they pop out, but it's probably not the best plan. Yeah, that's that. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble for so long. When I was buying this pattern, I had bought the red wool, and then I went on Ravelry and I looked at projects that people had made with that wool before, because I was hoping to work on a project where I wouldn't have to kind of alter the gauge or anything like that to be able to use that wool. And I knew that I wanted to make a jumper, so that was kind of how I found this pattern and decided to use this one. But then when I was like, I think I was contemplating between 2 or 3 different petite knit ones, and I was trying to find reviews of somebody that would discuss like how easy it was to use the pattern and their experience with it and things like that, and I was struggling. Like I found people that had posted final projects. Maybe I just wasn't searching right, I don't know, but I was struggling to find people that were talking about their experience working with it. I thought that I would film a video and talk about my experience working with it, because yeah, I feel like it was something that would have helped me make my decision. But yeah, god, I really never know how to finish a video. I'm always just end up blabbering away. Hopefully one day I'll get better at it. Thank you guys so much for watching and for spending your time with me. I will put a link to the pattern in the description, and I will also add links to the wool and the wool and the mohair that I used, and if there was anything else that I talked about in this video that I don't remember, that'll be that as well. I will also put a link to my knitting Instagram if you want to be knitting friends. I feel like I want to have more knitting friends. I don't have any, so that would be fun. And hopefully I will see you all in my next video. Bye!